We are ready to move on to Roman numeral 7, which is all about the Northwest Passage. This is the typed outline that you're going to begin with. Now, there's a couple of other pages that go along with Roman numeral 7, but definitely get started with this one as far as filling in the PowerPoint that goes along with it. As we begin section 7 on the Northwest Passage, let me remind you of a couple of things that we know already. We know that both the Portuguese and the Spanish have figured out all water routes to get from Europe over here to Asia in both directions. So we know that all water routes have gone from east to west as well as from west to east. But what some don't realize is, what if you left Europe and you tried to go further north through these waters? That's what some countries are beginning to look for, because we already know it takes a while to get from Europe to Asia, going all the way around Africa. You know, when Da Gama did it, it took him 2 full years to go there and then come back. We also know it would take probably even longer to sail west and go all the way around South America in order to get over here to Asia. So they're looking for maybe a better and a shorter route to get from Europe to Asia by all water. And those countries that are searching for what we call the Northwest Passage are going to be England, France, and the Netherlands. Or if you don't want to write out the Netherlands, you could say Holland, because remember, that's where the Dutch are from. So the French, the English, and the Dutch, they are all three wanting to figure out a Northwest Passage to Asia. You know, gave an example of, getting to India. Maybe they're trying to get to China. Any way you look at it, there are certain goods in that part of the world that we've talked about that they cannot get in Europe. So they're hoping to go, obviously, into the area of where North America and Canada are, to try to get to Asia via all water. As you can see here, none of the three groups ever found such a passage. And I want you to think about why that would be the case. What do we know about, let me try to get this map up. Hold on. Sorry about that. Here's the map. Look at this part of the map, and what do you think is happening in that particular area? Obviously, very cold, lots of icy water. You really think ships are going to be able to navigate through those waters? No, definitely at certain times of the year, okay? So France, England, the Netherlands, they all tried, but none of them are going to be able to find such a passage at least this time in history. So what did they find, if anything? It says here that they found value in the lands of North America, and that should be on your number 2 on your typed outline for section 7. So they may not have found the Northwest Passage, but they sure did find a lot of value in the land. For example, if you look at your number 3, we know the French are going to establish a profitable fur trade in the New World. And they are going to set up various trading posts, and they usually set them up along some type of body of water, like a river, because you've got to be able to get the goods to certain locations. So for the French, Detroit was the main trading post. So definitely make sure you have that down. Again, this is on number 2. On your little a, we know that the French will encounter groups or tribes of Native American Indians. And it just so happened that the French and the natives had pretty good relations. In fact, of all the groups that are going to be colonizing in North America, the French probably had the best relationship among anybody with these native groups. And there are reasons we'll talk about later. But it says here examples of what these two, the French and the natives, may trade with one another. We know that they are trading items such as tools. The natives have certain tools that would benefit the French when it came to getting certain things done on the land. We know that the French had guns that they could trade for maybe these tools. Or the French had horses. And imagine being a Native American. You've never seen a horse before. Horses come from Europe, and the natives have never seen them. So you can imagine, their eyes and what they thought seeing this huge animal walking around and not really knowing much about it. But we know that the natives are going to get horses. They're going to get, like we said, the guns. And we know, unfortunately, that a lot of these Europeans that trade with the natives will give the natives alcohol. Now, again, the natives are not used to this type of drink. And unfortunately, you can imagine the negative effects that it's going to have on these natives. Their judgment is not going to be very sharp, when making decisions after having a lot of alcohol in their system. So let me repeat the examples of items that are traded between the French and the natives that you should have written down on your little A under number 3. So you want to put down guns, horses, blankets, iron tools, and of course alcohol. And the natives refer to alcohol as fire water because it's burning as it's going down. They didn't know what else, to describe it as. All right, moving on to the French actually establishing colonies over in the New World. We know the very first French colony was Quebec. So see here, and we obviously know that that is the northern part of North America that will eventually be referred to as Canada. So that entire area of present-day Canada will be settled by the French, but they don't call it Canada. It actually gets renamed to Canada years later by the English, and we'll get to that later down the road. But when the French have settled this area, they refer to it as New France because it's like home to them, but it's new. In fact, here is the map that I want to show you. So you see here, Quebec, right here. Here's what we call the United States. And then you go north, and that is the area of where the French will set up their first colony. So please remember that, very important fact. Now, there are many different French explorers during this time period, but one important one that I want to go over with you is La Salle. So make sure you know that he is a French explorer. And again, if you're in the right spot on your outline, you should be on number 5. He explored the lower Mississippi River, as you can see here. And he will claim land on both sides of that river for the French king, who at this time was Louis XIV. So again, you have French explorer La Salle exploring the lower Mississippi River and claiming the land on both sides of that river for the French king at the time, which was Louis XIV. Now, the decision was made to name that particular land after, of course, King Louis and his wife Anna. So we know that is where we get Louisiana from, okay? Some of you might remember that from 8th grade in your history class when you probably went over some Louisiana history. So this isn't anything new to you. On number 6, we're going to go over a major reason or major difference between the French settlers versus when the English are settling in North America. So first, make sure you understand that these French settlers, you're going to find out why in a minute, have chosen not to settle in the Americas. Actually, what I mean by that is that they are not there to actually take over the land and exploit the people that are already there, such as the natives. So why have the French chosen not to do this? Well, it's because they are more interested in making money than taking the land from the natives. Let me repeat that. The French were more interested in taking money, in making money, not taking, making money than taking the land from the Native Americans. So think about what that's telling us. The French are all about setting up trading posts so that they can make money off of the fur industry. They're not interested in forcing the natives off the land so that they can claim it and own it. Okay? In fact, this proves that the French had one of the better relationships with the natives compared to other European settlers. So again, that's a very important statement that you know the French had one of the better relationships with the natives, more so than the other European settlers. Now, speaking of other settlers, it's not just the French who were originally looking for that Northwest Passage and then found value in the land, for example, the fur. The English are also hoping to find a Northwest Passage. And as they are making their way over, they will, as you see here and you've learned in your elementary school, they are going to set up their very first permanent English settlement called Jamestown. 1607, it will be in present-day Virginia. Now, a little bit of background on this because we are currently on number 7. It was the London Company, this is a joint stock company, that paid for this voyage. Okay, so it took a lot of money and ships and crews in order to make this all happen. Now, why would the London Company take a chance and do this? Again, because you got to remember what a joint stock company is all about. They're hoping to make a profit. So the intention or the goal of this company is, of course, to make money off of this English colony, Jamestown. So if Jamestown succeeds, the London Company can make good money off of Jamestown. Okay? So before we go over anything else about Jamestown, you do need to know it was named in honor of King James I, who was ruling England at this time. So that's how it got the name. And again, very important fact, it is the first permanent English settlement in North America. Actually, a group of English tried to settle a colony years before Jamestown in Roanoke, and that one ended up in disaster. A lot of the colonists end up being killed or they're missing. No one knows exactly what happened to those colonists. There's just a lot of speculation. So we can't call that an actual colony that succeeded. So that's why we're saying Jamestown is the first permanent English settlement in North America. As you can see here with this map, this is the location of Jamestown here in early Virginia. And you can see they established it right along a water source. That's going to be important for survival. You know, you think about when you are trying to set up a colony for the first time, you got to think of the necessities. You got to have food, you got to have water, you have to have shelter. Unfortunately, a lot of the colonists, you know what was on their mind when they first arrived? Where's the gold? So, unfortunately, you're going to see that this colony almost failed. So I'm going to go ahead and stop this video because the rest will be on another video.